politicals out there in the tubosphere. Welcome to the POLIT'AI CHI, where the center left meets the center right. What do I mean by that? When you strip away the positive and the negative, or the negative and the positive, you are left with common centricity. Common sense, center, centricity, you get what I'm saying. Alright, so until I can find a flesh and blood Republican around here who's right of center, because I'm somewhat right of center, but a little more left of center, but I'm still a centrist. Our co-host is going to be an over 100-year-old from the Meiji Restoration period. It was depicted quite well in The Last Samurai, of which some of you may have heard of. Ken Watanabe playing Katsumoto was a real figure. The final clash between the last vestiges of the daimyo period in Japan, the samurai, and Emperor Meiji, who realized that we got to get up to speed with the European powers. The beginning of which, as you may recall, may have been depicted in Shogun quite well when Richard Chamberlain was the man on point. So this statue, being a music box doll, I like to think of more as a representation of that period, which it's from. Hey, so I'm cutting in based on what happened at Boston Marathon. And truth to tell, you know, for the one-man sports rant, these daytime sporting events where I don't have help at night, you know, from my other assistants on the OMSR. So I was like, okay, you know, got some interest in the marathon shows on the Olympics, more so than some of the others. I thought, all right, we'll show the end of the Boston Marathon. I actually was covering that. And also, ostensibly, member of somebody's family I may know, not going to say whom or through what connection, but or why they're into marathons, but you know, we're pretty close, and finished 2 minutes thereabouts by their estimation before this event went off. And so I just say, you know, be glad they were in that good a shape. 27,000 runners, 27,000 families, they'll all be affected somewhat, but those who are in and around at the moment and thereafter, you know, that's I find it kind of odd that a one-man sports rant event became a POLIT'AI CHI, because I haven't been able to do a POLIT'AI CHI in a while. Been so busy with college basketball. So how do we make sense of center left, center right? You know, the things I'm bringing up on this particular episode are no closing, silliness, and nothing humorous to be found about this day. You know, if I were a Bostonian, I'd be pretty pissed off, which is why I have the Imugi dragon out here. Imugi, Korean, dragon god, and did away with the good-looking, you know, geisha doll, or the Meiji Restoration period doll, as I like to call it. Let's face it, it's probably a geisha doll, but got my Tibetan charm bracelet from a Nepalese shaman up there in the Himalayas. So we're gonna get your ass, whomever did this. I mean, what is wrong with people, right? And I'm not making this about me. I'm not trying to be sensationalist. What I am covering is POLIT'AI CHI, such as it has been lately, is dedicated for you 9-to-5ers who might have missed all this. So we got Clint Van Zandt, our favorite FBI G-man profiler for short, not a case he ever worked on that didn't come out to some sort of fruition. And, you know, hardball was the facts came out, and I'll just leave it at that, and then we'll just close with the end graphic. And then I'll try to do an update tomorrow. But, yeah. You know, the Imugi dragon, all of the POLIT'AI CHI, we're looking for you. I mean, these people who think they're going to get away with this, and it is an assault on the world, like you'll hear it being said. All right, thanks.
Until we get confirmation and think more about the people who were injured, and our prayers and our thoughts to them and their families. We also understand, quickly read, that President Obama has been notified of this situation and is monitoring it very closely.
All right, let's head to Mass General Hospital, where 7th Brandon Gano is joining us live on the phone. And Brandon, we do know that within the past half an hour, the first patients arrived there.
Yeah, that's right. We just confirmed that 4 patients from the explosion are being treated here at Mass General Hospital. I actually just spoke to 2 U.S. soldiers who just got back from Afghanistan, served in Afghanistan, and they were running out of the hospital, and they tell me they were about 50 yards away when the explosion happened, and without hesitation, they ran over to help those victims. They said it was chaotic. They said the victims had huge lacerations. They said there was missing limbs involved, and just a lot of panic. So they did everything they could to help those victims until emergency personnel could get to them. And then they actually ran from the finish line to here at Massachusetts General Hospital to give blood, thinking that was another way that they could possibly help those victims. They said, as they were running to the hospital to try and get blood to help out, they were trying to get a ride, but a lot of people who hadn't heard of these explosions, didn't know what was going on. It didn't give them a ride, but they say they were about 50 yards away when that explosion happened, and they just tried to help as many victims as they could until people more trained in that situation arrived. I know one of the two young guys, young soldiers, served in Afghanistan. They said, we're from Boston. We expected to see things like this in Afghanistan. We didn't expect to see things like this in Boston. One of them
two
was
explosions. Then there'll be one time that a later position, a later location, either to divert attention away or perhaps to kill or injure first responders. With this many devices, at least 3, and the level of sophistication that it would have took to build these, we have to at least, consider the lone wolf terrorist, as well as, is this something inspired by some type of international group? When we look at that white smoke, Chris, that white smoke from that first device, that could be indicative of a low-order explosive. In essence, not the like military C4 or plastic explosive that we hear about, but nonetheless, these are deadly devices. They're intended to kill, and as you say, for terrorists, now they've stood up on a platform realizing that 96 countries were recognized as runners in the marathon. So this is not just an attack on America. Once again, this is an attack on the world.
Let me ask you about the device. We were all trying to figure it out. NBC believes, based on police authorities, that it was an improvised explosive device like the ones we hear kill our American troops over in Afghanistan and Iraq all the time along the roadside. Does it require a detonator by something like a garage door opener or something like that? Does the person have to be present?
No, number one, you don't. You could have simply a timing device. Realize that this device went off about an hour after the initial winner crossed the finish line. But again, with 26,000 runners, at least half the runners still had to cross that finish line. And today, you can have a relatively low-order explosive, but you can have a sophisticated detonator, something, Chris, as simple as a cell phone, where I could be dozens of miles away and make a phone call. Chris, that could be one of the reasons the authorities have shut down the Boston airport, is because they want to make sure, if it's an international terrorist, for example, that we don't make it easy for this person to escape by plane. The authorities are scrambling right now. They know what they have. They have at least 3 explosive devices. What they don't know is who planted it and what message, other than one more attack on America, have we heard today.
In the area of speculation, going after the Kennedy Library is a way of going after a particular point of view or a particular part of American history, John F. Kennedy. Of course, this year's the anniversary of his assassination. I was just thinking, going into Boston, known to be a liberal city, although it's much more complicated than that, and going after the John F. Kennedy Library as part of this horrible terrorist attack, does it tell you anything? Does it, at the library, can it tell you? There they are at the library with the fire truck. Does it tell you anything that they would hit the library of John F. Kennedy?
Well, it tells us that these are not only deadly acts, but these are symbolic acts. Realize, Chris, as you know better than anybody, today is Patriots' Day in Boston. Today is basically, as far as they're concerned, almost a national holiday. It's probably the busiest holiday in Boston. Schools are closed. Hundreds, tens of thousands of people come out to see something like that. The Boston Marathon, this is America. This has been run for so many years. We're used to this being an American event. People come from all over the world to run in this type of event. And now, simultaneously, the 2 strong symbols of America. Number 1, the Boston Marathon. Number 2, JFK, the JFK Library. Again, this is exactly as you suggest. This is meant to frighten us. It's meant to confuse us. And it's meant to make us look different directions, saying, where is that next attack coming from? Again, Could be a lone wolf, could be an organization. This is why we pay the FBI, the Boston Police, and all these other agencies to come together and realize it could be as simple as somebody seeing someone drop a backpack, or it could be one of our sophisticated surveillance cameras that picks up an individual dropping off a package at 1, 2, and now apparently 3 different locations. If we can show one person or multiple people, we have an idea. Are we dealing with a lone wolf, or are we dealing with a dedicated
your
group?
life, the rest of your life, that you were there and that you and your family, lucky for them, got through this whole thing. And thanks for coming on MSNBC to give us your firsthand account of this. I want to go back to Clint Van Sant and the significance politically of anyone who would set a bomb with 96 countries participating. You were the first to raise this. This guarantees that this story will run in every bit of media around the world.
Yeah, it really does, Chris. And again, when we look at symbolic targets and realize between the FBI and the Secret Service, the ATF, Marshal Service, other agents that help coordinate security, each one of these you have to look at what is not only the national, but what is the international significance of an event like this. We see things like the Super Bowl and the NBA championship and, you know, the Final Four in college basketball. But when we consider athletic events, this probably, next to the Olympics, has the greatest international representation of any event like it.
It's so big in East Africa, where I've had some time in my life, and the idea oftentimes a Kenyan will win or an Ethiopian will win. And that is such a huge event for those countries to have a victor in such an iconic international event here in Boston, and now to have this marred this way.
And when we look at the timing, if in fact we have this sophisticated timing, Chris, realize that the bomb was set, the bombs were set to go off not when that first person would have crossed the finish line, but to let the bulk of the, for lack of a better term, professional hardcore runners would have finished. But then, just like your last guest, Chris, the day in, day out runners, Mr. and Mrs. America, Mr. and Mrs. Africa, Mr. and Mrs. France, whoever runs these events runs it because their heart's in it. They know they're not going to win, but they want to be part of something, and their heart says, I want to participate, and there is no greater event than be in Boston. Now forever, when one thinks of Boston, you won't be thinking perhaps of this as the marathon that started in 1887, or that it's the oldest marathon in the world. You'll be thinking about 2013, when that believed terrorist attack took place. What will that do to this marathon and others like it around the world? Again, terrorism has a platform, and one more time it stood up and yelled at us.